go. We're live. We're live. You ready? We're live.
Live, it's alive. It's alive.
Do it live. We'll do it live. Do it live. Yeah, we'll do it live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Between Two Wheels podcast. Tomorrow, the tour hits the big climbs, but they still have some racing to do in stage 12, and that they did today. We're going to go over some of that. Reactions and results from stage 12. Look, one team, they went full team tactics, and they showed how to do it perfectly. Another team, Bora, not so much on them. ASO, they changed COVID-19 testing goalposts. What's up with that? Some things that make you go, the ride of the week or the day. And Jim Akowitz, he summons black arts, the black magic, or will he be able to? He thinks he might be able to. It's Wednesday, September 10, 2020. This is the Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 195. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Look, CCC, they're on the outs. They're not going to have a team next year, or so they say. And well, they're trying to. And Jim Akowitz, he's out there saying, I've pulled the rabbit out of the hat a few times. So let's go to kind of what he's said. And I think you'll be quite interested in, does he have anything? He really doesn't. He doesn't have much going on. But with that, we can at least take a look at the news report. Time is rapidly dwindling for the Jim Akowitz and his Continuum Sports organization as they fight to have their 2021 world ambitions alive. But the veteran team boss is still hoping to save the team at the last minute. I can't put a percentage on it, but I pulled a rabbit out of the hat once or twice. So maybe I can reach one more time. Akowitz manager CCC told Cycling News the eve of the stage 12 Tour de France. Look, he's been able to do this several times before with Motorola, 7-Eleven, and now he's got CCC ramping up. A long-term deal was in place for CCC, but COVID-19 really hampered the Polish company's finances. Despite pay issues. Here's the kind of the kicker. Since March, Akowitz has been looking for a replacement, but trying to find over 10 million euros during a pandemic is tough ask. While there has been several interested parties, but nothing has come of the discussions. It has ebbed and flowed since March, but those in interest have played out, and they've all been at this point evaporated from their initial interest to the answer of no. We've gone through a number of scenarios with different people for the last few months, and we're still going on. There's still people knocking on our door, and we're knocking on others' doors. We're willing to talk, but as of we don't have any commissions from anyone for 2021. And then it goes on to say how he was talking with the Spanish Manuel Fundación Foundation, which kind of a thing with Mitch and Scott that came and went, and that was a no-go. They tried, I don't know what's going on, but the point is Akowitz thinks he might be able to, or this could be the end of an era for Akowitz and his foundation of cycling and his long storied career. You know, he rode with 7-Eleven way back in the day and really drew that team to the fore. Obviously a big part of Lance Armstrong. I guess his daughter, I think she's an Olympic speed skate person, a medalist. And I don't know if she medaled, but she was definitely on the speed skating team, several Olympics. Akowitz himself was a speed skater. However, black magic, pulling the rabbit out of the hat. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Let's go to stage 12 and the results from today. Stage 12. Look, I said it probably wasn't going to be a GC day. It was going to be rolling up and down, and definitely had the chance for some exciting action. And what you saw on the day, the longest stage race, the longest stage of the tour, 218 kilometers from Chavigny to Saran, pretty much a north to south. Not quite in the Vosges, but in the Massif Central. Rolling stage with finishing climbs. Early sprint points went to Sam Bennett. That's an issue, right? Boro Hansberger, they were geeked up to take the stage and then get back to Sagan and hunt for green and also win. So they did a lot of work on the front today, but Sam Bennett ended up taking the first points of that. Then you had an early break. Irviti he was with movie star Luis Leon Sanchez, Max Walshed, Niels Pollitt, and Casper Asgreen. They're up the road. You got several climbs coming into the finish. Let's take a look at the actual stage profile, and we can at least do a little breakdown of kind of where it is as we describe the stage 12, and how that whole thing played out, because it was quite the interesting little battle we had here. So as you can see, it's pretty much going uphill all day. Starts under 200 meters in elevation, ends up over 600, but you've got some kickers here. An early sprint at kilometer point 50. It has a Cap 4 at the 100 kilometer point, another Cap 4 at the 121 kilometer point, but it just rolls up and down all day, even with uncategorized climbs. Finally, at the 177 point Cat 3 at the Côte de la Croix du Puy, and then the bonus points and a Cat 2 coming in at 187 kilometers, then downhill with some continuous spiky stuff going on. made the race really tough and difficult. What you saw that break group out there, and then basically Bora. Look, you can see the profile, and I'll just leave this up because it's kind of important. Profile is up and down all day, but they figured with those Cat 3 and that Cat 2, Bora was going to have a chance of dispelling the group of the sprinters, get rid of Bennett, essentially get rid of Bennett, because at that point you'd be able to take some more green points jerseys, points that Sagan was utterly in need of after yesterday's kind of, and we'll go over that a little bit. So you've got Bora goes to the front. They're trying to get rid of Caleb Ewing. They're trying to get rid of Sam Bennett. The one that kind of an antagonist here for Sagan is also Matteo Trentin of CCC, because he can sprint pretty well. He's been beating him in some of those sprint points, but he also is able to hold on going uphill. Saw that several years ago. Was it I want to see the 16 or 17 Vuelta? He wins like 3 stages, some of that over climbs. So he did fairly well, and he can do that as well. Matteo Trentin, that is. So Bora goes to the front. They're really pounding away on the Cat 3. You still have then Asgreen and Evite are still up the front, and Bora's doing their job. They're kicking out sprinters out the back, and they're sitting on the front looking good. However, as they start to hit the climbs, there's about 40 some K left to go. Sunweb decides to show them up a little bit. Sunweb takes off with Soren Kragh Andersen and Tish Benut. They head up the road. Those two are looking quite fine. Then they overtake Asgreen and Verti kind of as the pelotons, as they're taking off, they're taking them over. It's about 43K out. And then Bora's their grip on the peloton is about as strong and as a 3-week-old baby. It crumbles, and everyone just starts a flurry of attacks. Now, what you did not see were GC riders going up the road. GC, look, tomorrow it's going to be Hellstrom day. They know that the next 2-3 days, especially Friday and then Sunday, are going to be really bad. Saturday, questionable, depending on how they race those two. So the GC guys are kind of like, just we're going to do our thing. We're going to stay here, but it allowed for a bunch of guys to try to get up the road. You ended up having Mark Soler go up the road, Max Schachmann, Bora. Now Bora, they blew it apart they had 2 guys up the road. I don't know if Kamna was one, but definitely Schachmann and another one were up the road and trying to get in that break. And did that help? Sagan? Well, at one point he's dangling off the back. And the real point was you'd been on the front all day trying to get rid of sprinters in hopes that Sagan could do something. So instead of having your climbers up the road, vying for the win, covering breaks, it's all fine and dandy. You then leave Sagan kind of open and vulnerable at the back and not being able to really do his thing himself. As it was, you had Pierre Roland, Dumarchi, Schachmann, Jesus Serrata, King Kenny Elisande was also up there. Mark Soler then takes the Cat 2 points himself solo over the Côte de la Croix du Puy. Lysenko also tried to make a move in there, but then Mark Hirschi, you see him, Sunweb, he bridges up to the group. He gets up to them. Mark Soler then takes off again on the last follow of Cat 2 climb up is there a name here? The Suc du May, I think that's what it is. 7.4% at 3.7 kilometers. And Soleil takes off, and then Mark Hirschi, who we've seen on stage 2 and 9, narrowly missing out on the wins. Look, stage 2, he got behind a little bit with a sprint finish with Alaphilippe, never was able to come around him until after the finish line. Stage 9, he was out on his own, about 80 kilometers, gets caught by the kings of the tour this year, Roglic, Pogacar, who else was in there? Anyway, Bernal, and he was able to then out sprint. Well, he took off on the sprint too soon, and he was out sprinted by Pogacar and Roglic. So this time he decides it's about 30 some K or so. And he decides to 28K. I think he puts on the hurt just outside that point, and he took off, and he ended up holding off for the victory. He went right through Soleil. He had a little bit of a gap over the top of the last climb, and then he descends quite nicely. We saw that on stage 9 as well. Holds him off. There was a group behind. You had Alaphilippe in there. He was all over his bike. He had, I don't know, some bike problems. He's trying to attack. He's just not quite clicking in at this point. Maybe that's why he was going so hard to begin with on the tour. But they were not able to, they had like 30 some seconds, and there's a big group of these guys, and they never brought it into sides, 40 some seconds. And at that point, a little bit too much, too little, too late. And you did not be able to get him. Mark Hirschi, finally, he holds on. He's tried those 3 times. But, luckily he was able to do this. 22 years old. We're like, oh, he finally was able to do this. It's his first tour. It's his first pro win. And yes, he was finally able to hold on. This makes careers. This is what people will love to do. And he was actually able to do it in his first Tour de France. There's going to be a lot of talk about him because he's probably someone that you're going to be seeing a lot of coming up. And, the fact that he has Cancellara kind of on his side says something. So here's the results from the day. Mark Hirschi, 5 hours, 8 minutes and 49 seconds. Pierre Rolland, 47 seconds back. Soren Krag Andersen, his teammate, gets third at 52. That team did great today. B&B Hotels, Pasher. I thought it was Pierre Rolland, but maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was Pasher up there. That makes more sense. Jesus Arata, Schachmann, Hugo Houlet, Sebastian Reichenbach, Kenny Alessandre, and Nicholas Roach, and he keeps on going down. And then Peter Sagan comes in at 13th place, 2:30 back. He was actually able to take the field sprint narrowly over Greg Van Avermaet in 14th, and then 15th for Stuyven. So, Wout van Aert, his nemesis there in 19th place. As far as the GC goes, Primoz Roglic, nothing changed there over Egan Bernal. We're going to see, big shakeup on that tomorrow. Guillaume Martin, Romain Bardet, Quintana, Iran, points jersey. It narrowed a little bit today. Sam was out to take some, but I think Sagan moved up like 4 points on the day. So that's not a big move there. Youth didn't change. King of the Mountain will be interesting because Cosnefroy, he can't get over a climb to save his life right now. And he's hovering at 36 points. Non-Peters had a brilliant day. What stage? I want to say 8. And he's got 31 points there. But Mark Hirschi coming in 31 points. And you're starting to see he can get up and over climbs. They're not taking time back on him when he's getting up the road. The only one was on stage 9 where he was the very last climb up the Col de Marie Blanc, which was very steep. He was actually got some time back on him. So Tom Scoynes, 24 points. I don't know how he's going because he kind of got his ass ripped open in the final there on one of the stages from a wreck. But let's actually take a listen to the final call on the stage and see what how they brought it.
This was a brilliant ride from Mark Hirschi, and at 22 years of age, he is one of the youngest ever riders to take a victory at the Tour de France. Remember, he's only just 22, Mark Hirschi, denied by a 21-year-old into La Reims in the shape of Tadej Pogacar. Now he makes it all his, and this is a special rider announcing himself in the best possible fashion on the biggest bike race in the world. And he's done it, and finally the emotion shows. All that control gives way to glory and delight. Mark Hirschi is a big-time player on the Tour. You better believe.
Yes, big-time player on the Tour. Better believe it. Very impressive from what he's done. First Tour, finally gets his win. Finally gets his win. Poor guy, 22 years of age. Let's go through some finish line quotes, just seeing what some of these riders were saying about everything. It's unbelievable. I was 2 times close today. Never believed I can make it because it was really doubtful. I went full gas the last few hundred meters. It was super nice. I can't describe it. It's hard to find words. He wasn't the greatest finish line quote person. And I'm saying that not for what he said here, but with the interview that they had with him, a little bit, guys new to this. He's probably going to look back in a few years and go, I didn't say the best things. Max Schachmann, he was 6th on the stage. He said, Mark Hirschi was unbeatable today. We created a strategy for Peter Sagan with me and Leonard Kamna to go into the attacks, but it proved to be too hard. There was nothing any of us could do. Hirschi was stronger than all of us. Well, he was, but also that Tish Benoot and Soren Andersen, they were ridiculous too. The way that they set it up, and the coach, look afterwards, he's describing how they were planning the day, and it was exactly as it went. So you go, maybe that's it's easy for him to do hindsight. Julian Alaphilippe, if I tried harder to win the stage, I would be disappointed. I tried my best, but Mark Hirschi was the strongest today. I made the effort and thought it was the right time not to go for it, but Hirschi was too strong. Tomorrow, maybe I'll give it another try. He didn't go when Hirschi did, and he tried to go later. And at that point, it was the kind of the front group was already too far up the road, and he was going to have to close down. I think the GC point was the yellow jersey was over a minute and a half or so back when Alaphilippe finally went up the road. I don't know. He probably should have gone a lot earlier. It was Primož Roglic. It was maybe not the easiest stage. We expected a breakaway to go immediately in the beginning, but the guys from the other teams were pulling strongly. Again, not really a rest day, I guess. Today was, I think, a good warming up again. Tomorrow we'll probably have to expect an even harder stage at the end. Yeah, no kidding. Hopefully we just continue to ride this way. The whole team. Tomorrow there's a new challenge in front of us. Yep. Egan Bernal doesn't say anything about his hair, but he does have some comments about the stage. It was long, over 200 kilometers. No duh. There was a lot of stress because they were racing for time bonuses. Things were finally calmed down after the break went. I think we'll really feel it in our legs tomorrow. It's a hard stage with steep climbs, and so it will affect the GC. I don't think they're going for time bonuses. They're going for sprint point bonuses. There was a time bonus on the last climb up, but the GC guys didn't make an effort for that. Finally, there was not a battle for GC. We were the whole day thinking about the bonuses. Seconds on the very last climb. Okay. Finally, the breakaway has taken time, but it was a really hard day. Yeah, so the times were taken, so it didn't really matter. Bora was pulling really hard for Sagan, trying to fight for the green jersey. It was really a hard day, and for sure, tomorrow we will feel it in the legs. We have seen the stage tomorrow when we did recon. The last 2 kilometers are really steep and really hard. Sweet, I like to hear that. We need to arrive there as fresh as we can and to do our best because there will sure be a difference. Yes, I imagine there will be, and should be a good day for a battle out there. Now, look, we had COVID-19 testing that was done the other day, and we've talked about this before. But in case you're new to all this, the UCI had come out before the tour saying if 2 people on your team, your entourage, that includes staff and team, tested positive during the tour, they were out. Then they said, "Oh, that's a little bit harsh, just 2 riders." But the French government said, "No, we're sticking with this. It's 2 people." Test positive, and you're going to be out of the race. So they tested on the first rest day, and with that test, they came up with 4 teams positive, but it was no riders. So it was Mitchelton Scott. You also had Ineos, AG2R, and there was another team in there, and we go over what those were. Cofidis. Those were 2 French teams, Mitchelton Scott and Ineos. Now, what they've said is they're actually backing that down, and they're saying, hey, we're actually going to do reset for the second rest days. Okay. Seems a little odd. Those teams, we are expecting the counters for the next round of tests. However, if before those tests, one of the 4 teams has another positive, then they will be out. That was the source. That's what they confirmed the reset to CyclingNews. Special Tour de France COVID-19 protocol states that if 2 members of a team or rider test positive for the virus within a 7-day period, the whole team will be excluded. So now it's within a roll. I don't know if within a rolling 7-day, but it's in a 7-day period. If another case emerges in the 4 teams this week, then they will be removed from the tour. However, the confirmation that the case counter will reset to 0 ahead of the second rest day means that the 4 teams are no longer on quite the same knife edge entering their next round of mass testing. ASO and UCI confirmed on Tuesday before the start of the stage. 11 that staff members of Ineos and had tested positive. We know that Christian Prudhomme had done so. Look, what's the point of the testing? Is the testing for the teams? Is it testing for the health and protection of the teams, or is it to not just have the spread around France? None of the protocols here really seem applicable to real world. It just doesn't seem like it's doing. I don't know that's what I'm saying. What's the intent? Because it just feels like it's not really doing anything that it's supposed to be doing here. If it's health of the riders, I don't think it really didn't. If they're coming down with symptoms, maybe so. But the way they're bubbling these off, they're not spreading it on the road to each other, I would imagine. That's probably why you saw team mechanics getting it. If you're looking to not spread the around the country, I don't think this rolling tour with teams is really going to be doing that either. I don't know. It's kind of odd, but I'm glad they're actually changing this because it seemed a little too draconian and not really. I mean, if someone tests positive, just have them go, right? Have them leave. And if it was really a bad thing, you would have seen more than 4 on the first rest day. So I think at that point, you're not really getting too much of a problem overall. And plus, there's a lot at stake here. You have a lot of, like I said before, you have a bunch of French riders, you have a bunch of Colombian riders, but mostly I said you have a bunch of French riders all up there. Well, two at least, Guillaume Martin and Romain Bardet. They're both doing well. So you got to protect those guys. And anyway, that's what we have. The rolling 7-day COVID reset on tap for now. Sagan sprint fallout. We talked a little bit about Sagan yesterday. Check back on stage episode 194 for that. Just some things I'd like to refresh and kind of reset on that. Think about it. Horner, he has, I've suggested people check this out before. He has a YouTube channel and he does a daily recap. It's like 8-9 minutes or so. It's called The Butterfly Effect. And Horner is one of my favorite for breaking down analysis. He just has a different way of thinking about everything. But one of the things he said on his show last night was the riders actually couldn't brake. And he brings a bike out there. Now, he's probably not the best person for this because he's like, look, where their hands are in the drops, they're down lower, they're sprinting, they can't actually access the brakes. You can, okay, as a sprinter, you can grab a handful of brake from the drops, even when you're in a full sprint, if you need to. Matter of fact, Hofstadter, he put a tweet up. He's like, I didn't usually use Twitter, but and he showed a picture. It was him that before Sagan went into Wout or went up the road to go to Wout, he basically came across on him. And he said, if you had hit me, I'd probably be in the hospital. He goes, but I grabbed my brakes. Yeah, so you can obviously do that. That happens. Sagan said he made the choice. Well, first of all, he made the choice to dive down the barriers himself. So it's on him in a sense. He said, I didn't do anything wrong. And then also those back from the Tour of Turkey saying Groenewegen should have been put in jail and is a criminal offense for what he did. I really hope you are okay with what the relegating Sagan, because it's similar in effect. If you're going to go that extreme, you're going to say Sagan was dangerous. And I was kind of on the fence on it yesterday. I mean, I probably came out a little bit more just the reaction of, yeah, I don't have a problem with relegating him. I don't think what he's doing, first of all, when you see Wout has the straightest line possible, then Sagan's just doing what he thought. Taylor Phinney, nothing. I think he's still high because there was some stuff he had here about the Tour and Sagan, and he's like, see if I can find it out here. At a further interview, Sagan was out. This is what Sagan said. It was asked about Wout van Aert. Let me let's talk about this first. Go back to Taylor Phinney. Taylor Phinney, and I don't have the quote here, but he's basically like, "Hey, man, that was badass. You're not only a badass rider. What you did was badass, and that was cool." And I'm like, I don't know. It was a little dangerous, and only. It's the mode and this mindset we're in now from the Tour of Turkey and trying to be a little bit safe. And Sagan thinks he's king on a bike and can do almost anything. So he does try to do those things. And there's been talk about him for a long time and his kind of cavalier type of attitude and way he rides a bike. But he is a great bike rider. And then it is sprinting too. So I'm not going to take too much pushback on that necessarily. But with that said, what he was doing, I don't think it was the safest thing. But there was a reaction. Remember, there was some language back and forth between Sagan and Wout, and this is what he was saying about it. In a further interview with French television, Sagan was asked about Wout's reaction to the maneuver. Sagan says, after a finish like that, everybody can have an excess reaction. It's a question of emotions, Sagan said. I have experience of all that. He's young and strong, but he must also be a little bit more relaxed. Wout laughed and asked Sforza to respond to Sagan's comments. I think I'd better not respond, he said. Of course, I reacted myself yesterday, but not in the right way. I freely admit that. Maybe that was not the right start to a conversation. But I totally understand it. But evidently, it was Wout coming up to Sagan to try to explain himself, and Sagan was like cursing him out and all heated. Who knows? All I do know is, though, that they got a little bit, as the Euros say, argy-bargy, and maybe it wasn't the best little situation. But anyway, how about some things that make you go, masks on the podium. I saw this today. I was thinking about Hershey. I'm like, hey, it's his first Tour de France. He gets a win. It's his first pro win. He gets to go up on the podium and post up there, and he's got a mask on, and it sucks because you don't have a good picture of yourself, winning, having the yellow lion, being able to project out there to all your friends and family and have something that you get to, and instead you're going to put something up on the wall and you're masked up this whole time. Like, that's pretty sucky. And you got enough distance. Why not just let those guys take the mask off, take a photo, be fine, put the mask back on and go. I mean, there's distance up there. Maybe even take those two weird, whatever, they're putting two people up there. I don't know what the point. I guess they're dignitaries. It's kind of some weight because they can't have the podium girls anymore. So when I say can't, I mean, they decided not to. So maybe just have it where they're up there all by themselves. They come up there without a mask on, have their picture taken and be out there. I mean, someone like Hershey, he definitely wants it. Now I did see Egan Bernal. He was up there today, and he's probably the one person we should all want to have the mask on, and he probably wants it on more than we do because that haircut, he wants to hide from that forever. Why can you not just shave the whole thing, Egan? It's poofed out. It's all shaved around the sides. It's obviously done like you said you did it yourself without a Flowbee or any kind of assistance. And can someone just get him a hermetically sealed shaver and let him shave the head, take care of the whole thing from now on? Pretty bad. So, but look, if you're just a Cat 1 or Cat 2, maybe you're just a racer, an amateur. Maybe you can fool your family and say, look at this and say, hey, I'm being pro. I'm a pro. Look at me. I'm on the podium. It's a mask on my face, so you can't really recognize it. We won't be able to do that except for with Bernal. Oh, how about the upcoming stages? Tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm pretty excited about. Let's go to see if we can find the profile, because this one has really good kicking. It might even be worse than, I don't know if it's worse than Sundays. Sundays is going to have a lot of sustained climbing, where tomorrow, stage 13, is going to have just some really brutal tons of climbing. Okay, so stage 13, we've got to Passe de Poel, La Puy, Mauri. I think Jonathan Scriven in our review show talked, anytime you see the word Puy, it's a volcano. So I think that we're going to go up to there. Last climb. So you start off right away with a Cat 1 at 30, crests the top of the Cat 1 at 35K in, crest the Cat 3 at 63K in. And by 85 kilometers, you've already done a Cat 1, a Cat 3, and a Cat 2. That's pretty gnarly. Then some descent as a sprint down there. What's the odds that anybody, that even a Sagan will get to that? I don't know. Then you head right out of there with a Cat 3, another Cat 3, and then a 2 and a 1 that are basically in connection with each other. So there's a little bit of respite down the 180 kilometers to crest the Cat 2 with a time bonus. That could be kind of like we saw with stage 9 with Roglic and Pogacar, kind of doing a little battle. Not much of a descent. And then boom, from I don't even know what the distance is, but they end at 192. So last 12K, they have a little bit of a descent. And then the final climb, 8.3%. And I can't see how many kilometers because the digits are running into the wording going on the other way. But as you're going to see, that goes up to 1,600 meters. They start the day at 400 meters. A lot of climbing through the day, and it's going to be brutal on stage 13. Stage 14, as we talked, the Col du Buil, Cat 2. They do hit a Cat 4 right away, which isn't going to be much. Cat 2, Cat 3, there's a 4 and a 4. I think you're going to see, it looks like, maybe it'll be a GC battle. I don't think so, because those guys are going to know that the Sunday has this mammoth thing at the end. And finally, an HC category, pretty brutal climb up the Grand Colombier. It's a famous one we have, but 2 Cat 1s prior to that, and a sprint point and some nonchalance. So from 99 into 175, about 80 some K of climbing on the day. Brutal. That's what we got coming up for the weekend, and then a rest day. How about the ride of the day? Well, going to Mark Hirschi, right? We have to. Former under 23 world champion. He's still under 23. He's only 22. Finally gets his one win. Didn't have the best post-race interview. I only say that because he kept saying the same thing. I didn't know I was going to make the finish. He's been saying, and look, that's the tough time to interview someone right after they're off the bike, still kind of trying to get their breath. And but kudos to him. Evidently, he lives right near Fabian Cancellara. Evidently, Cancellara is also his manager. Interesting. I hope that's all done in whatever language they have. Because have you ever seen Cancellara, when he used to tweet, he would coffeets. He would always say coffeets instead of coffee. So I hope his manager gets someone else for drafting the language on that thing. That's what we have in store. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming into the Between Two Wheels podcast once again. I appreciate all your attention, giving this show some help. Between Two Wheels podcast 195 in the books. Share the show. Look, as we're broadcasting on Facebook once again, because we've got to go live there, but we're going to be posting everything up once we get a chance to, also on YouTube, and hopefully we'll be back streaming there soon. Thanks everybody.